Thank you for this day, and we thank you for the sunshine. We thank you for opportunities, Lord. And Lord, we just ask you to bless this day, bless this meeting. Lord, give us wisdom and knowledge and clarity of speech. And Lord, we just ask you to just bring calm and peace and solutions. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hear ye, the Elkhart County Commissioners are now in session to hear any and all business brought before them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. We'll call the meeting of the Elkhart County Board of Commissioners to order April 20th, 2026. The first is the approval of minutes from April 13th. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Allowance of claims.
Morning, I have regular claims and payroll that have been reviewed and are ready for your approval and signatures.
Make a motion to approve claims.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Business under Commissioners, recommend award of historic Goshen Courthouse window replacement.
Morning, Commissioners. Joe Lightman, Buildings and Grounds. 2 weeks ago, we received bids for the window replacement at the historic Goshen Courthouse. Today, we would like to recommend the award go to Schrock Commercial. Schrock's bid was the low bid and met all the specs for this project.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Can you tell us what the price was?
Sure, it's $1,063,000.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Letter B, request approval to release bids for demolition of 27575 County Road 24 Elkhart and 30495-3 County Road 24 Elkhart with bid opening to be May 26th.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kevin Williams, Elkhart County Building Commissioner. We have two unsafe structures that we'd like to get bid to get torn down. Both of them have gone through the unsafe building process. The first one, 27575, is burnt about 4 years ago, so this has been a long process with this house. The second one, 30495, is a burnout mobile home, and we've been working on this case for about a year.
And in both cases, have they had ample time to make corrections,
Yes, they have.
but you've seen no progress?
No,
And this has gone through the safe building
unsafe hearing.
unsafe
Yeah,
hearing?
yeah.
Okay.
And the first case, it's been, we've had multiple meetings through the unsafe process on that one.
And for the public, the way that this works is this unsafe building process takes quite some time. We then go for demolition and provide that notice, and we're asking, or the commissioner's asking for to go out for bids for a bid opening on May 26th. That would actually then put a lien on the property so that we can get our money back if the property is sold.
That is correct.
Any further discussion? Any questions for Kevin?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Next is request use of historic Goshen Courthouse lawn by Downtown Goshen Incorporated First Fridays on Friday, July 3rd for Street Festival.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Taylor, County Administrator. The item before you is a request from Downtown Goshen, Inc., representing their First Friday events on July 3rd, which is a Friday. They would like to use the courthouse lawn from approximately 5 to 9 p.m. It's part of their street festival, and they will provide a certificate of insurance if the commissioners approve the request. So if you do decide to approve the request, make it subject to the certificate of insurance being provided.
Make a motion to approve subject to the certificate of insurance.
Second.
And is this after the 5 p.m. you said, or?
Yeah, 5 to 9 p.m. It says they want access from noon to 11. And I think it's,
Because by then, Goshen City Court could be in session.
could be. Yeah.
And we've set up additional parameters to help with those guidelines though, so I think we're still okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next is planning, request approval of Riverbend Development Group LLC, represented by Whiteman for a zone map change from A1 to DPUD R3 and for primary approval of one lot major subdivision known as Riverbend Townhomes DPUD. North side of County Road 16, 550 feet west of County Road 116 in Middlebury Township.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jason Alville, Zoning Administrator. This petition received a recommendation from planning staff as well as a unanimous vote from the Plan Commission. There were remonstrators present. The development issues concerning this proposal was by neighbors over the potential increase in traffic along County Road 16, causing more congestion and unsafe conditions for motorists, buggies, bicyclists, etc.
Can you tell us a little bit about the history of how this was first presented and how that's changed to what is presented before us today?
Sure. Originally, when this petition came before us, and the more specifics, Whiteman and the property owners are here. They had a apartment complex that was pretty dense, and so when going through those meetings, looking at getting some of the feedback, they decided to reduce the density. The original proposal had how many buildings? Had 22. 152 units, and this proposal is 112. So we went from 152 units to 112. And then they also addressed some of the parking elements by reducing the number of buildings and the number of apartment units. That created more area for some more parking.
Okay, and then are you familiar with the Middlebury plan that some people are referring to?
I am. So Indiana statute requests that communities have a comprehensive plan. And what that comprehensive plan is, it establishes for that whatever community we have. All 4 towns in Elkhart have a plan, the county has a plan, and both cities have a plan. But basically it sets up and establishes some long-term goals for those plans. Those are community driven. The plan in Middlebury that was established involved various stakeholders from the city, regular citizens, business owners, property owners, the school, a whole slew of those different from the community members. And the consultant for that was MACOG. Again, that's a regional a planning organization, and it identified some of these long-term goals for different communities. Those are all community driven and community led.
And when you say that the consultant was used, right, because that's a point of contention for some individuals, the consultant basically conducted the surveys, pulled the data and pulled the common threads and reported what that was, right?
That's correct. They shepherded the process.
That's a good word.
They helped organize the meetings, and they were responsible for preparing the final report. But all the input, all the guidance for those goals were all community driven. We're all from the town of Middlebury.
And in general, have you ever seen a comprehensive plan outside of this, inside of Middlebury, anywhere that doesn't look at and evaluate growth and development?
That's one of the goals.
The whole point of having comprehensive plans is for community to be growth minded, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
And to look to see how they want to grow, where they want to grow more specifically. Again, comprehensive plans, they are not enforceable by law. They are just a policy, high-level policy to establish goals. In Elkhart County, the laws that we follow for land development are state statutes as well as our local development ordinance. Those are what matters. Goals and stuff are good. They're good benchmarks to look at. But again, they're not enforceable by law. They're just as a policy. It's not anything to do with the rules and regulations that we have to follow.
So these comprehensive plans can be looked at and recalibrated
There's absolutely, they're supposed to be looked at regularly.
Okay.
The Elkhart County Comprehensive Plan is a 6-page pamphlet. And we should probably look at revising that, looking at that again in the future. Some are really elaborate, some go into a lot of detail, some stay at a 50,000 foot level. But again, it's just, again, a chance for the community to express those ideas of how they want to develop, how they want to see the future.
And when they're looking at them, to have a plan, whether it's 50,000 or very detailed, like, there's random communities that are specific about how they want things to look and how they want things to grow. Most of the plans around here are a little bit larger view that says, hey, this type of business or this type of development, we would like to see some. If you're interested, let's open a restaurant or whatever, right? Is that kind of how it is, the way these comprehensive plans go in general?
Generally speaking, a lot of times these comprehensive plans are looking at, well, again, how does that community want to develop? What do we want to bring into our community? Do we want to bring in more industry? What kind of industry? Do we need to bring in more housing? What kind of housing? What kind of amenities? What kind of parks? What kind of those other things that attract people and bring people into their communities? Those are the kind of things. And a lot of various grant funders, various federal and state agencies actually look at these comprehensive plans as one of those things that enable these communities to get funding for various projects. If you don't have a comprehensive plan that talks about parks, for example, there's not a good chance that you might get additional funding from the state or from the federal government for your projects. But as I said, land development in Elkhart is completely controlled by our development ordinance and state statute. It has nothing to do with these comprehensive plans.
And now to come back to this, just real quick, since I think we kind of went off into a little rabbit hole. 112 units, 12 buildings, is that correct? How many buildings?
Well, yeah, 12.
Okay. We've addressed access, we've addressed stormwater. Anything else? Buffers? Do we have any issues on buffers? Or does the developer themselves want to speak? I'm sorry.
Terry Lang from the Whiteman office. Our address is 1402 Mishawaka Avenue in South Bend. Working with the developers here, Riverbend Development. To answer your question, some of the things that were brought up at the Planning Commission meetings was concerned with some existing trees on site. There's a row of extremely large oak trees that set approximately 50 to 70 feet back off of the county road there. We've incorporated with our revisions to the plans and decreasing the number of units, allowing us to shift the buildings back farther. That row of landscape trees are going to remain. And then our plan also incorporates additional landscaping trees intermittently between those to incorporate a good buffer to the residents to the south, as well as for the apartment units themselves to have a buffer from the highway there. And if there's no other direct questions, I'll go back into my presentation.
Well, there are going to be other questions, but go ahead and present.
Okay. I may answer some of those as I go through it then. To give you a little history of the property right there, the property was originally owned by Lozier Fixtures to the north since about 1945. Property was looked to be dispersed about 5-6 years ago. The developers picked up the property at that point in time. In conjunction, the town had extended utilities in that direction about that same point in time. Sewer and water are both located along the county road out there, which made this a premier site that would allow to be able to connect to the city or the town utilities for both sewer and water there. I laid out a comprehensive plan, had 152 units. At the Planning Commission, at both meetings, the density seemed to be one of the biggest concerns. We amended the plan accordingly, reduced that from 152 units down to 112 units. And it's going to be a multiple of units that are anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 bedroom type units in there. When we modified the number of units down to 112, one of the other items of concern was the number of cars and appropriate parking for those cars in our apartment community. We have allowed in this community, normally it's a 1.5 cars per unit on your parking space requirement. Our plan had figured that we would provide 224 units. We've used 2 units or 2 cars per unit as our rough gauge.
So I'm sorry, you said 200 and, how many parking spaces?
224 parking spaces for our 112 units. With the decrease in the number of buildings, we were able to get additional parking spaces above and beyond what we had originally figured for 224. We have provided 248 parking spaces, and we've allowed for 12 handicap space between one in each front of each building as necessary, if any of those would be handicapped accessed.
Are they gonna be assigned per unit? At least one, or is there gonna be one parking space? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, at each unit, there'll be one of them designated with.
With the unit that you rent, you get,
Yeah.
this is your spot
Yes.
and others are open.
Yes. As we were going through the process of creating this plan, we had contacted the utilities in the town of Middlebury. Did they have the capacity to be able to supply sewer and water for their water disbursement, as well as the sewage treatment, handling the additional amount of generated affluent headed toward the utilities there? Both of them had responded positively that they had the capacity to handle that. And it was one of the reasons why it had been extended out in that direction as part of their comprehensive plan for growth in the town. We had reached out to the school corporation to find out their input for having 112 apartment units being added to the community. They had relayed on to us that over the last 5-6 years, the primary school there in the town of Middlebury had experienced a decrease in pupils being enrolled of about 20% over the time frame. That increase or decrease in number of pupils had generated a loss of income from the state of about $1.2 million from the school budget. So as the enrollment decreases, budget funds from the state have also decreased for the school corporation. So they were very much in favor of being able to get additional pupils to the area right there and be able to keep the budget for the school corporation running at peak. The developers are both here as when I finish, Marlon and Myron are both here, Schwartz, who are the developers, that if you have specific questions with regards to the buildings, they will be able to answer those items for you. As detailed numbers are going, with the decrease in the number of units, we have created additional open space within our development here. Of those 11.5 acres that are there in this development, the open space will represent about 7 acres of that, which represents about 61% of the site will be green space, landscaped areas, and open space. So it's something that we heard what the residents were looking, and we've included that in our plans here.
So just to beat a dead horse, that 61%, what you're calling open space, does not include parking, does not include.
No. It's everything else, buildings and parking, and anything that's left that is not paved hard surface or built on. Yes.
Thank you.
The density that we're having with these 12 buildings is you're looking at about 9.7 units per acre. The R3 zoning district normally would have apartment projects in the size of about 20 units per acre is what you would normally find. So we are approaching half of what density would normally be for that type of development there. As we were going through the planning commission, we contacted each of the county agencies. Also, there was concern about stormwater. Would the retention areas be wet basins or dry basins? We had sent the soil scientists from our firm out there to do soil borings in the retention basin areas and areas on the site. The soil conditions are some of the best in the county for stormwater drainage. It's a combination of sand and gravel in that area. So the stormwater that will be going in our basins should normally be under even a 100-year rain. In a 24-hour period, the retention basins will be dry. So concerns for them to being an attractive nuisance for kids that would be living within the project or around the neighborhood, has been addressed for that concern.
And those storm basins are fenced off, correct?
They're currently fenced off, correct, and will remain that way too. So
And one of the concerns is that I've heard is that the Little Elkhart River, that some of this would go into the Little Elkhart River just west of there. Any comments on that?
there will be no direct flow. If it is, it will be through percolation into the sand gravel retention areas as set aside. I know the development to the south has some sort of overflow system in their design that allows overflow because they wanted their basins to be wet by design nature. We are not proposing wet basin because in an apartment, it does create an attractive nuisance, and we don't want that to be available there. One of the other concerns that came up was traffic. Obviously, traffic along the county road right there generated a lot of response at both of the Planning Commission meetings. We reached out directly to the Elkhart County Highway Department for their input. They had given us very detailed changes that they wanted to see for our entrances there, for particularly the main entrance to the west, to provide for a area for a left turn lane, which would allow traffic to turn either to the south into the development to the south or turn and go to the north into our project. So those additional lanes have been added, and their details that they wanted for the easterly site have been shown on the plan also to allow for flow through traffic for emergency vehicles, for trash, school pickup, and emergency vehicles, fire and ambulance services on our plan. So those were added also to be able to provide those needs if they would be for fire, trash, and emergency vehicles.
I got a question from your first responders. So what impact, have you guys done a study on what the impact would be for the fire department and the police department in Middlebury with these added homes or added apartments?
They were happy to hear that we were having city water. We will be having fire hydrants located through our project, located between each other buildings, so you could feed off of each of those to do a fight a fire if necessary for that, and to be able to have access from either direction to be able to provide services for that. So yes, they've been able to accomplish the safety concerns that they had for that.
So they didn't have any concerns with the extra load in their departments?
Not at all.
Okay.
And I think covers all of the points that I have in mind, and I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that the commissioners may have.
I've not.
Any traffic study done and in conjunction and the amount of cars that would be exiting or?
A traffic impact study was prepared for, it was one of the requirements that the Elkhart Highway Department had asked for, which we provided that for the number of anticipated additional vehicles along the county road right there, and that was provided. And part of that was what generated the additional changes that the Highway Department wanted to see to our entrances there. And that was used for accommodating those changes.
Anybody else to present?
The developers are here and they'd like to speak also.
Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners. Marlon Schwartz, Riverbend Development Group, 420 North Main Street, Middlebury. On behalf of my partners, I'm just here to try to address the best I can, questions, concerns you might have. We've been working on this project for quite a few years. Just trying to be a good neighbor and, to address the concerns that came up over time. And we've met with them at the library and things like that. And we've, like Terry presented, we originally proposed what was allowed for the density for the 152 units, but with the concerns, we were willing to just reduce and try to do the best we can to be a good neighbor. And we reduced down to the 112. Less than 5% will be 1-bedrooms. We want this to be something that is safe for families, for people that are, going to want to access the trail, to use the park, to be a part of this community, not just a place to live. I know from what we've encountered, a lot of this younger generation doesn't want to own a home. They want a place where they can live, raise their families, go bike riding, get on the trail, and not have a home to take care of. And especially with the current mortgage rates and everything, we feel like we are in that affordable rent because of where the rates and things are. And so we feel like this could be a real good asset on that side. We understand there are challenges, to navigate through, and we're trying to do that the best we can with the buffering and everything that, we've mentioned, and working with the town of Middlebury for the utilities. So in regards to workability, we've tried to do our best. And so I'm just here to ask if you guys have any other questions for us.
So when we talk utilities in these hearings, we usually talk about water and sewer.
Correct.
On my radar screen is accessibility to power.
Yes.
How is that looking for y'all?
It's looking good. We've talked, we have that discussion with NIPSCO. We have that in process as well.
Okay.
So power shouldn't be a problem either.
So we're getting some feedback that the design of the buildings are somewhat, how do I say it?
Some people don't like the way they look.
Yeah. So is the design of those completed?
No, it's not. That was just a conceptual design.
So they're basing their opinions on something that
Correct.
is just a concept. It's
Correct.
not the finished product.
That is
So
correct.
can you depict for us what the appearance of these apartment buildings will look like?
We would call it modern, a modern look is what we would call it. There will be stone is what we have, thought about, stone incorporated along the front, along the bottom, to be, so that it's not just one color going down the front. And so our goal is to make them look very nice, not just, something that we're just throwing a color on and calling it good. So we will have designers as well involved with that process to try to, get the best look that we can.
So this is a part of the conversation I normally have not considered before with a request, because this board has never really dictated color or
Sure.
not geographic,
Exterior finishes.
exterior finishes,
Sure.
right? I just assumed, and I don't want to assume, that's why I'm kind of stating this or asking. You want people to rent these,
Mhm.
and based on whatever research you do, you're going to do something that has a certain aesthetic.
Yes,
It doesn't look like a prison or anything.
absolutely.
You're gonna want somebody to want to live there.
Correct.
Any other questions for the developer?
So your project's called Riverbend Townhomes.
Yes.
So are they townhouses or are they apartments?
They're townhomes. So that means,
2 floors?
exactly. Yep. With firewall in between. And everything's obviously going to be fully sprinkled. And to my understanding, in state of Indiana, it's extremely rare if they've lost a complete building that was fully sprinkled, that was in compliance and inspected, annually like is required, which we would do.
So another question that has been brought up is, are you planning on building this, getting them loaded up or rented out and then
Yes.
selling them?
No, we're not planning on selling them. We live in this community. We have other projects in this community that we've worked on over the years. And so we live here, we're invested here. So that is not the plan to sell them, no.
Okay.
Is there any plan to make this subsidized housing?
No. We haven't asked for There's no subsidy, there's no funds, there's nothing. This is,
The rent you're charging is not cheap. I mean, it's not, it's a market rate, right?
yes, it's
Okay.
market rate. Yes. And we have, we manage our own properties, so we keep eyes on them. We have cameras, we have, things like that, that we try to mitigate the risk, as much as possible. We do background checks, we do all of that. So, we have a very close eye on what we do, and who we invite into our community, and try to do the best we can.
So approximately how many properties do you own? Does your company own?
As far as the partners, not in the LLC, but
Mm.
right now we're managing somewhere around 160 doors that we
That's-
have under our umbrella that we manage daily and we take care of.
And this is this first, second townhome project, or the first?
This would be the first townhome project. We have the former Syracuse Elementary in Syracuse, that we actually invited the residents down to see, if anybody wanted to see who we are and what we do. That one is 63 units that we converted. We kept the gym. And, a lot of the concerns about traffic and all that was the same when we did that. But to date, and that was in 2021 when we started that, we haven't had any issues on that side. When you're talking about that amount of cars, people come and go. They don't all leave at the same time. And so we've in that specific development that we did, we haven't had any problems.
That's all I got.
Any other questions?
Not now.
Okay, I'd sort of like to bring up Mary Cripe.
I didn't even see her. Is she here?
Mary, do you mind coming up, and I'd like to ask you some questions? So, if you would state your name and your position.
Mary Cripe, Middlebury Town Manager.
Thank you. I did ask you to be here, so thank you for that. And so I'm looking at the 2030 plan for Middlebury. And on page 36, it says that that the part of the plan is understanding the town does need new housing options. The town envisions alternative housing options with a range of density, scale, affordability be integrated into redevelopment plans in targeted areas. The community also understands the need to offer a range of affordable housing options to accommodate first-time homebuyers and renters wanting to relocate to Middlebury for their children to attend Middlebury schools, and so on and so forth. And then there's a kind of a sub-element during transformative strategies. It says, one, provide diverse and affordable housing options. One is to support the development of young family-focused housing subsidy program. And then secondly is support the development of entry-level first-time homebuyer housing subsidy program. Can you explain that? And is that this situation? I mean, what does it mean by a young family-focused housing subsidy program? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what that means either. But I mean, the purpose is to attract young families. I mean, we have several people that have children that would like to live in Middlebury, come back and be, as part of the community. And we just currently don't have any housing.
Okay. Does the city or the town provide subsidies?
No.
to anybody? Well, this is a statement that's in your plan, so that's why I'm asking. I guess maybe that's something you ought to consider. Are you aware of what your plan is entitled? What's your plan name?
2030
It's-
comprehensive plan.
And what's the the purpose of putting 2030 in there? What was the goal
So
there?
we started the plan back in 2019 with the goal of having it complete in 2020, and it was a 10-year plan. So that's why we called it the 2030 Comprehensive Plan.
And are you aware that there is a document put out by the United Nations called the 2030 Agenda Plan?
I am now, but when we were doing that plan, I had no clue that there was anything like that.
Well, I've read
Um,
both your document and the United Nations Agenda 2030 Plan from front to back. Is there any, do you feel that the United Nations 2030 Plan was utilized to create your plan? Or is it just mere coincidence that the 2030 is in both
It's
documents?
I can tell you that that was never brought up in any of our conversations that we had when we were doing this. There were different groups of for each, like the housing group and the schools group and different things, but to my knowledge, that was never brought up.
Who helped you write your 2030 plan?
MACOG,
Um,
and then all the residents. I mean, there was we had a lot of input and a lot of different meetings that came together with community members, business owners.
As the representative of Whiteman said, he said he contacted the city and they have capacity for sewer and water. Can you affirm that that
Yes.
is correct?
We do.
And are you like pushing the limit with these buildings that would be like at your max and you'd have to rebuild and build
No.
out the sewer plant or anything?
No.
Okay. So you have plenty of capacity?
Yes.
Okay.
Just like anything, I mean, we'll have upgrades that we need to do because sewer plants, they're corrosive and over time you have to do maintenance, but
But you have enough capacity tank wise and holding
Yes.
all the,
yes.
even with the new additions of the future plans of bringing in all your industrial out by the toll road.
So, there is a plan to expand the wastewater plant in 2030 or after. We don't know the exact year, but, if that stuff is brought on, I think that was about another 30,000 gallons per day.
So since we're getting into the weeds, in general, when we have municipalities that talk about their development for water and sewer, you design your water and sewer just like we design our roads for a certain amount of growth. And once that growth is hit, then you have to put more money in and expand it. Because again, back to one of my earlier points is that every town, every city, every municipality, every county should want to grow, and you develop to grow. So then that will cause additional investments. Just like we do with our roads, they have the water and sewer utility, just like I asked about the electric and gas. Um, if you want growth because you don't want to die, that's what happens. You either grow or you recede. You've got to develop. But right now, she's said multiple times that there is capacity, and we've
Our current capacity is 999,000 gallons per day. We're currently right around 600,000 gallons per day. So this development, if you do the quick math, it'll be about around 25 to 30,000 gallons a day. We have Mid-State Specialty Eggs that's connecting on, that's 35,000 gallons a day. And then the toll road area that we know about.
and you also have to keep a certain reserve capacity for storm
Correct.
events, right?
Correct. So that's why we believe, by around 2030 is about the time that we'll need to do an expansion. And we've been working with county representatives through the redevelopment commission to be able to work towards doing those expansions because a lot of it's due to industrial growth.
So this land that's being considered for development, it's not inside the town.
Correct.
It's out in the county. That's why we're hearing this.
Correct.
Why was not that land annexed? Or is there plans to annex it in the future?
So there is an in lieu of annexation agreement, and that's why we have agreed to extend or to allow them to connect as long as, they're not fighting annexation when we're ready to annex. But we just don't go out and start annexing properties. That's just not the way it works. Typically, they come to us when they're ready to be annexed. So it's just not the way that we do things.
And there's bike trails on either side of and behind this property. How did the town build that? And who provided the land for it?
So the the Parks Department had this on in their master plan for several years, to be able to provide some type of connection from like Riverbend Park out to the pumpkin vine. So that way, bicyclists didn't have to go west and cross State Road 13 to get to the pumpkin vine to then get on to be able to get to the trail. So that had been in the works prior to it even be given a project number, and the project number is a 2019 project number. So we worked on grants, we worked on fundraising through the community. So it was grant driven through the Department of Natural Resources. The town had money in it, and then we also had a lot of community support for it. So
The land was purchased through the grant money, and
there is an easement for the trail to be on
Okay.
the property.
and who provided that easement?
The land owners.
And do you see with this 112 units, do you anticipate any issues with the trail being utilized? Any problems thereabouts? Okay.
I really don't.
And then about the traffic design, they did improve the intersection, which, is all about safety. Do you see that the increase in this 112 units is going to be a problem for the roadway to handle?
I do not.
And what justification do you use for that?
So the roadway, I think, carries right around 3,000 cars a day. And a typical two-way or a two-lane roadway can carry up to 8,000 before you really start needing to look at, any type of future widening. And I just think that there's sufficient capacity there.
Any other questions for Mary? If you would stick around in case we need to ask you.
Can I
follow-up.
just say one thing? I'd like to commend the developers because they have met with the residents in the villas several times.
And the villas are across the street.
Correct. They have met with a couple of town council members. Our town council members have met with the leadership of the villas, and they've made accommodations to make sure that they're being a good neighbor. So I just want to commend them for all the work that they've done, and they've listened and they've made the modifications.
Couple more questions. You mentioned town council. Does the town council? I know it's hard to when you're talking about elected officials, but in general, do you get the consensus that they're in agreement with this?
Yes. Because they've asked for the modification to be made, because the original agreement was the in lieu of annexation agreement, and that was made for approximately 100 units. So when the 152 units came, that was a big red flag for our council. And so with them making concessions of reducing it down to 112 units, that has helped.
And were you town manager when they built the River Park Drive, which is right across the street from this development?
I was not. That was in the early, I think it was started in the either late 1990s or early 2000s. I'm not sure
Okay.
the exact date. And I became town manager in 2016.
Very good. Any other questions for Mary? Thank you. Anything else from the developer?
Just a couple items I wanted to add. The developers live in the Middlebury area, so it's not like you're an out-of-town apartment developer. They live there, make their living in Middlebury, and it's their own investment in this. They're not asking for TIF money. They're not asking for initiatives. They're not asking for tax abatement. I think that speaks volumes for being a part of the community and not putting a burden on the town. And this will bring extra tax dollars in the future to the town for any upgrades that would have to take place for that.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? Jason, anything else that you wanted to add? Okay, we're going to open up for a public hearing. Before we begin, as you come up, a speaker must begin by stating their name and the city and state of their address. A speaker may state their street address if they believe it is relevant to the issue presented. In other words, if you live in the town of Middlebury, it'd be prudent for you to say your street address, although we're not going to require it. Unless you've put it on the form that you've already turned in. If you've put it on the form, then we'll consider it. You don't need to say your street address. If a speaker does not state their street address or does not place it on the registration card, the commissioners will deem the address as, sorry, I lost my spot here. Will deem the address of the individual to be of no merit on the issue. Any comments made must be from the podium and only addressed to the commissioners, not to other county employees or audience members. And any comments made should be on matters within the commissioner's authority, and a speaker may state their position on comments made by prior speakers, but must refrain from making duplicative or repetitive comments so that we can keep going. Each speaker will be limited to a single 3-minute public comment period during the hearing, and the speaker has finished their statement or time has elapsed. The speaker must return to their seat with no further dialogue, debate, or comment. And that'll be strictly enforced so that we can keep going on this. So please respect those rules. So we'll open up for the public hearing. If you're here to speak in favor or against this rezoning or development, come on up. You can start by stating your name and address if you wish, or if you've already filled out, just we'll check you off the list here.
Tom Carney, County Road 116, just adjacent to the property.
Thank you, Tom.
I have some forms here to give to the lady.
Come on up and
So he lives in Middlebury.
yeah.
Like I stated at the last meeting at the other office, it's been since 1968 that I've come to a podium high school and spoke. So if I have a hard problem here, please bear with me. I give you these here forms in front of you. They're petitions from the people in the surrounding area. Most of them are Amish. You see, the first ones are 74 petitions against it from the villas that are straight across. And the next one are 210 petitions from the neighbors and residents around. And most of that I have taken from County Road 116 over to, now forgive me, I believe it's 34. I have dyslexia, so the joining road that goes up. And then that area there, those are mostly Amish folks that their children attend the school up on the hill.
It's kind of Road 43.
43.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I have dyslexia.
I'm familiar with the area very well.
Okay, we know you are. Thank you for being our commissioner out there. And during this, as you know, the road, we claim that the roads are heavily trafficked with semis and that. You already know that. You've read that and followed that up very well. So in this area here, that you've talked about the planning, that comprehensive planning, that was years ago. Things have changed prior to that, and things have moved on. But and you talk about the water and sewer. The water and sewer were run out there. Now the water and sewer was run out there past the cemetery, and I don't know why this town spent money and ran water and sewer past the cemetery, not unless they was going prior to the buildings being built, that they had an idea that they was going to annex this property. And annexing this property, I do believe, once they annex, do they get TIF money from that? And do the taxes occur? And so that was one of the things that I said, this was pre-planned, not from the comprehensive plan, but to the town. There've been 2 fatalities in this area. May I step over here and I'll show you. Just past, you see the property here and you see the cemetery, just past that. One person that was hit on a bicycle there. He was killed. This gentleman was hit on a bicycle and was killed right there. The bicycle is still, they put a bicycle there in honor of that gentleman that was killed. Now, just to the east of there, we had an Amish couple that was out, that my time
Okay.
limit or what?
That's your limit. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good day. Appreciate it.
Next.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Dora Miller, Middlebury. I have a petition opposing the Riverbend development. And I'm just going to read what, I have 36 signatures, what they signed. We, the undersigned members of the Middlebury community, respectfully submit our opposition to the proposed Riverbend apartment complex. Our objections are based on the following concerns. One is traffic, as you've already heard, and the safety of the Amish children and the horse-drawn buggies. The proposed institutional architecture resembles, which that is what we have been presented with so far. We've been told it might not be that, but that is.
Excuse me a second. If you have a cell phone and the ringer is on, please put it on vibrate. Any more disruptions, we'll ask you to leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. These resemble government subsidized housing and disregards our town's established character. State law requires commissioners to pay reasonable regard to the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. IC 36-7-4-603. The survey results, zoning meetings, and town council meetings reflect clear opposition to the apartments and overwhelming confirm that others are the preferred options, like single-family homes, condominiums, and nice townhomes. Government derives its just powers from the consent of the government, not from a comprehensive plan. The 2030 plan does not define the public good the people of this community do. And for the reasons stated above, we respectfully request that the Elkhart County Commissioner deny approval and reject any zoning changes that would permit the Riverbend apartment complex. Do you want me to read the names?
No.
Or, okay.
You can provide them to us.
Should I just pass my paper?
Okay, so I make sure that I cover everybody who, let's see, Marlon, you don't need to speak, right? Okay, so we've got 3 people who filled out forms here. I'm going to take these first, and then if there's others, you're certainly welcome to speak. So first is Rick Miller.
Rick Miller, 56531, County Road 116, Middlebury. I live right to the south. I live on the corner of 16 and 116, right to the south across the road from this proposed subdivision. I feel that's, once again, too much traffic. We have a big heavy flow in the summertime with the flea market coming in. We have multiple businesses, chicken houses, schools. Even to the west, we have the Riverbend Apartments. We have the cemetery. we have Forks Skyline Store, we have the park, we have the river itself, we have the county or the city parks department, and that's only all on the east side of the river. On the west side of the river itself, we have the vet, the villas, and the marketplace, and we also have the bank and Riverbend Apartments. We lost parking for the where the new bank building is right now for downtown. It was quite a big parking lot that the city and community was able to use. That's all gone because the bank built their building. And also right here, you can see this last purple mark to the right where that drive goes back. I live on the corner, and there's a road right there, and there's a business to the east of me on the north and the south side of the road. Well, when traffic is coming from town heading west, people put, and that drive is so close to that intersection, people put their blinkers on thinking, well, they're gonna go to the store. And people on the road wanting to make a left think they're gonna make a left on 116. And there's been multiple close accidents there where the people put their blinkers on, wanting to go into that store, thinking, and the people on 116 thinking they're gonna make a left. And it happens the same way as the people coming from the east. That drive is way too close to that intersection. So, sorry, I wasn't on the microphone. Everybody, was that picked up and understood? Okay. So yeah, and the school, once again, the kids, it's just in the parking downtown. It just seems like everything's funneling down, trying to put 5 gallons of water in a 1 gallon bucket. It just seems like it's funneling down, and you're gonna hit the river sometime, and everything's gonna be pushed into Middlebury. And with the lack of parking, I'm all for growth and everything. I favor single family housing there. North of town, south of town, on the bigger highways where more access is granted, I think that would be the place for that. But I guess not here. So I would be opposed to this.
Thank you. Steph Kaufman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Steph Kaufman, County Road 14. The pumpkin vine runs through the back of our property. I've stopped at homes and businesses and have spoken with at least 50 local residents and local business owners over the past few weeks. I have not found anyone that agrees with the rentals on that land. Residents would like to see more single-family homes. Although Middlebury's comprehensive plan is touted as being community-driven, it has the same language as the plan for my hometown of Leamington, Ontario, Canada. Keywords such as sustainability, designated green space, corridors, vibrancy, community involvement, urban dwellings, improved downtown visibility, and lots of rezoning. And of course, it frequently mentions affordable, attainable, and subsidized housing for all. The once beautiful farming community is virtually unrecognizable. The beautiful red barns have been torn down and replaced with endless acres of ugly high-tech greenhouses. Lovely rural homes have been transformed into bunker houses for migrant workers, and wind turbines fill many of the open fields remaining. The free housing for the native people, which looks oddly similar to the proposed apartments for Middlebury, are placed next to a high-end subdivision. There is little mention of single-family or rural dwellings in the plan at all. Leamington's comprehensive plan logo has a little circular symbol along the slogan, live, work, play. Middlebury's 2030 comprehensive plan has a similar circular logo that appears on our local signs. Our slogan is cultivate, build, thrive. Currently, Canada is a full-blown socialist country. There is a section of the plan that mentions the possibility of insufficient water for rural homes due to the large requirements of the greenhouses. How is it possible for these two counties from different countries to have such a similar comprehensive plans? In Canada, it may be mass greenhouses, bunker houses, and free housing surrounding rural homes, but in our neck of the woods, it's miles of hideous solar fields that have already been approved, RV factories in people's backyards, data centers, and now proposed high-density housing right next to private homes. This is unacceptable. I then began to research comprehensive plans around the world. There seems to be no town that I looked up that does not have a similar plan. Community-driven, I just don't think so. And there are a lot better locations far off the highway that have already been developed for developments like this. On behalf of my neighbors, my friends, and our community, I am asking you to reject the rezoning. This community is already cultivating, living, and thriving, and we need to be careful where we are building in order to protect property values and support the people who already live here. This project appears to be more about greed and checking off boxes in the comprehensive plan for Middlebury, and we, the people, your constituents, do not consent. Thank you for your time and for considering these arguments. This is the circular symbol I'm talking about in the magazine, which also had nothing in this magazine to inform the community about these apartments.
Ben Dorr.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Ben Dorr. I live in Middlebury, right on CR 16. I'm here on behalf of my wife and my 4 little boys, William, Elliot, Enoch, and Nathaniel, who are sitting in the back row there, and my 5th kid who's on the way right now, to oppose the Riverbend project. And I'm here also on behalf of my neighbors, because in Middlebury, we prize being neighborly, right? We keep hearing words like growth minded and community driven. Who said that a town has to grow all the time? Some of us like a small town. America was founded on small towns. And to say that a town like Middlebury with all the factories and things is somehow going to go under and go backwards and go broke and fall apart, that's kind of silly. I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't know why we're doing this. Project 2030, I'm curious who voted on this. I think it's a pretty big assumption that the people of Middlebury want this to happen, right? I mean, I've heard so far, I keep hearing over and over, we want growth. The people of Middlebury want growth. The people of Middlebury want this, they want this, they want this. And I haven't talked to anybody who wants this. So I'm curious if there was, it's a genuine question. Was there a vote on Project 2030? Does anybody know the answer to that?
I don't.
Okay.
They said there wasn't.
Okay.
They said there was no vote.
Okay. So I'm just,
It's a survey.
I find it really interesting that they just created a 10-year plan for the town of Middlebury. And now when the people of Middlebury show up en masse over and over and over and say, we don't want this. We don't want this. My kids play at the Riverbend Park. And I'll say this, I'm here as a warning because I'm not from Middlebury originally. I'm from Minnesota. We lived in a town that put up apartment complexes and put up townhomes. And it drove a lot of the local people out because crime rose, trash was in the streets. The town owned the townhome next to mine, and they put a refugee family in there who attacked my 2-year-old while he was playing in the front yard. And we left there to come to a small town like Middlebury because Middlebury represents, my kids call it the Shire, right? So we want to keep it that way. And it doesn't even really matter what I think because I'm the new guy here. But everybody I talk to who's lived here for 50 years, 75 years, 2-3 generations, some since the 1800s, they all say the same thing I'm saying. We like Middlebury. We like it the size it is. We don't want to build a bunch of apartment complexes, which bring in hundreds of new people who are not local. And when you bring in hundreds of people to a town the size of Middlebury, that's a pretty big jump in population for people who have no roots. They're transitory. We bought a home. These would be rentals. They're transitory people coming and going for a job. Many of them not family people. We don't want to see. You don't want to see. The people of Middlebury don't want to see what happens when you build complexes like this and bring in hundreds. And over time, according to 2030, could be thousands of new people to Middlebury. Be a good neighbor and oppose this. Vote it down. Thank you.
That's it for the list. Anybody else? Come on up.
Marcia Imel. I live at
Pull the microphone down, please.
Marcia Imel. I live at 225 River Park Drive in Middlebury. We've talked about a study of traffic, and I just wondered when that traffic study was done, because I'd heard at one time it was more like in the winter time, not during the time when you'd have all the people coming from the from Shipshewana. And seems like there was one more thing I wanted to say, and I'm spacing it. And also it seems like it would be nice to know what these apartments will look like, because it doesn't seem, I know that they said they don't have a final plan or they haven't shared one, but this is the same story we've heard for the last 2 years. We haven't had a plan on what it's going to look like, and we haven't, and there was mention of it coming back down, but we have to remember where it started from. It started at 100, and people didn't like that number. And then all of a sudden it goes to 152 or whatever. They bring it back down to 112 or whatever. And they brought it down because it caused so much commotion, but they started at a lower number in the first place. So I'm really concerned about traffic and how that, and I thought they were going to work on the bridge that goes into Middlebury, and I just can't imagine how that's going to back up traffic that goes over the little Elkhart River. And my brother lives on County Road 43, and he's already has a tremendous amount of traffic getting to 20, which this would just add to it. Thank you.
Next.
When was the traffic study done?
We'll try to get an answer for that.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Hycheck, Goshen. One of the UN's catchphrases is think global, act local. MACOG is one of the organizations that bridges the gap between the UN's global agenda and local policy. MACOG prepared Middlebury's 2030 comprehensive plan and unsurprisingly filled the 2030 plan with a similar UN language. Affordable housing, young family, first-time buyer subsidies. The repeated use of the word transformative is particularly concerning. And those are examples of UN language that MACOG inserted into Middlebury's plan. That brings us to the Riverbend. It was called apartments. Apparently this morning they're now called townhomes. Since Middlebury's population grows slowly and school enrollment has actually declined by several hundred, why invest in high-density housing instead of single-family, unsubsidized single-family homes? The answer, denser residential units are listed in the 2030 plan's transformative strategies, as Commissioner Rogers mentioned. And besides high-density housing, AK apartments, the plan also lists subsidized housing as a goal. It's safe to assume that these apartments would be subsidized with both high-density housing and housing subsidy programs literally in the 2030 plan.
Wait. They said multiple times that this isn't, and if you want to stop it, I'm sorry, since I'm asking her a question. They said multiple times on the record that this is not subsidized. So are you calling them a liar?
I would like to have a sworn affidavit under penalty of perjury that none of you nor any of the planning people are aware of any subsidized planning.
So you're basically calling all of us now liars because we're not.
That's a strong statement. I am raising the question, which is my.
It's your opinion, and it's an accusation here. So I'm having some issues because it was said multiple times, there is no subsidy.
And the comprehensive plan 10 times mentions subsidized housing.
This is a single development. We're not discussing a zoning discussion for the comprehensive. We're talking about a single piece of property, a single development, a single owner's right to develop their property. We're talking about that. We're not talking about some UN something or other. We're talking about one specific parcel. One parcel. They've said it's not subsidized.
And do we have any legal mechanism to enforce that? Can there be a change at the last minute or oops, now we found out?
A zoning request is about the land development, not always the specific cash flow in a land.
Correct.
So when a hairdresser says that she's just cutting hair, but then decides to color, we don't have a sworn affidavit that she decided to expand her product offering, right?
You've made my point.
Correct. But that's not what zoning does. Zoning does not do that. We talk about land use, land safety, land intensity, access, water runoff, not the revenue.
So when it happens, so when this revenue stream suddenly comes into place, you have no.
I don't go to Thor and say, Thor, how are you getting your cash?
That's correct.
You don't do that. I'm
That's
not asking you as a homeowner, Cindy, how do you get your revenue? How do you get your income? That's not my business. That's nobody here's business to know how you get your revenue.
It becomes my business when public funds are used for private gain.
There are no public funds. This is correct. This is all their personal development. There are no public funds. This is not subsidized in any way. It's been said multiple times on the record.
And we are questioning that because every other sample, if there are multiple.
You can go ahead.
Okay. But government incentives aren't just for the people that would move in. The 2030 plan mentions specifically incentives for housing developers. Brad, it's in that same section on page 36. One such incentive is a federal program called LIHTC, which has already been used in Elkhart County, and LIHTC bypasses the bidding process and instead gives tax credits to the developer to incentivize low-income housing. Developers typically sell the credits to investors to raise equity for the project, and investors use the credits to avoid paying full taxes, costing the government around $13 billion a year in lost revenue. By the way, that's $13 billion that's not funding roads, bridges, or tax cuts. I suspect the proposed apartments are a response to government incentives like LIHTC and not local needs. The local needs don't show we need high-density housing. This land is currently zoned agricultural, and it is a false choice to suggest it must be rezoned for either apartments or manufacturing. There are other zoning options. Privately owned single-family homes would better fit Middlebury's character and reflect what the people have clearly said they want. There are 23 homes on the market right now. Homes are available. For these reasons, I would ask this board to vote no on the rezoning. Thank you.
Next. Speak in favor. Opposed.
Afternoon, or good morning. I'm Mike Aish. I live on County Road 43, 57922. I've lived there my entire life. And when you talk about comprehensive study, has anybody done a comprehensive study of County Road 43? Because County Road 43 is known as the Middlebury Bypass. And I farm on that, and I've had 4 separate accidents on that road with cars hitting my machinery. Also, US 20 is a very dangerous intersection at 43 and 20. I've seen 6, 8 cars backed up at a time. And I've talked to the people at Miller's Garage, and they have informed me that that is a very dangerous intersection. So I'm just wondering where all these cars and stuff, I know they don't all go that way, but to bypass Middlebury, they come down 43. 43 is if you're familiar with 43, you realize it's a very narrow road. And once you cross the bridge there on 43, there's deep ditches on either side of the road. And do they have a plan to widen this road or to do anything with 43? There's been various people. I just pulled a chicken truck out a year and a half ago out of the ditch that had went off the road. So I'm just checking for if there is a study on 43 or not.
I don't know that we can answer that.
Okay.
Probably not.
Well, do you agree that there would be a lot of traffic, increased traffic on 43?
As a result of this?
Yes.
I don't know if I agree with that.
It's called the Middlebury Bypass for a reason. So that's all. I'm just I'm very concerned about traffic on County Road 43.
Thank you.
My name is Janelle Benjamin. I live at 13689 County Road 8 in Middlebury. Over the years, I've noticed that a lot of small towns have changed significantly. No doubt there were plans and about growth and all that sort of thing, but the nature of their towns have changed in a negative way. There are countless numbers of citizens in Middlebury who are not here today to oppose this new project because they're at work, they're caring for their family. Maybe they don't even know about it. This is the thing that I've noticed, an observation, like okay, so we're not talking about being subsidized, but I used to live in Huntertown, Indiana, and they had a restaurant that they were going to put in, and the town really didn't want it to be there. But and the citizens went against it. Finally, the people that were going to do the restaurant, they said, "We promise there'll be no alcohol in this restaurant." So anyway, it went in, but then it changed ownership, and guess what? Now it's a bar. So even though it's not subsidized now, low income and all that, at some point it could be in the future. Seems like government programs breed entitlement and dependency, not gratitude and strength. Caring for the poor and needy is a role of the church and the individuals. It seems like underneath the whole thing of this, putting these apartment complexes in small towns is sort of like a little bit of hubris, because it's like the people that have the power and everything, and the authority, they're kind of saying what's best for the citizenry, but like we're the citizens, and I'm standing up here not only for myself and for my community. I love Middlebury, and I beg you not to put this thing through. My neighbors, I got a lot of Amish neighbors. Every time they go on any road, they're in danger. This area is already a problem for traffic. So anyways, if we're gonna help the poor, and if we're gonna, this is not the way to change the whole nature of Middlebury. Middlebury is a unique community, and it's not going to die if we don't have growth or whatever. We, the citizens, we want it to be the sweet town that it is. We don't want to. We are the ones. The citizens don't have much power and authority of this. The builders and the people in charge and the government do. But I beg you, please, please, don't put this through.
Pam Kaiser, Middlebury. The Riverbend Complex apartments is not some innocent market-driven project. This rezoning is the implementation of Middlebury's 2030 comprehensive plan that's already been talked about. And that plan is a local copy and paste of the United Nations Agenda 2030, specifically Sustainable Development Goal 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities. The comprehensive plan's transformative strategies come straight from the UN SDG 11 and demands, number one, extending utilities to this property. This was done in 2024 with the Warren Street Water and Sewer Project by a change order after the project began. Rezoning the land, providing developer incentives, creating vibrant, walkable destinations, which is part of the Sustainable Development Goal 11.2, sustainable transport via the trails of Middlebury. The trails border this property on 3 sides and was given to the town by the developer. Was this an incentive to the town by the developer? The UN's 21 and 30 agendas laid the foundation for every local government to create comprehensive plans to transform towns into human settlements for sustainability, also known as 15-minute cities. Middlebury's 2030 plan delivered on that. In 2021, the town council did not have an interest in apartments on this property, but many goals were met that led to this rezoning today, including trails around the border of the property and access to the town's water and sewer. In the 2030 plan, it talks about preserving Middlebury's small town charm that residents value. This is not what this development does. Therefore, I urge you to reject this rezoning. Middlebury's future growth should not be based on faulty 2030 comprehensive plan written to fulfill UN Sustainable Development Goals. The plan was talked about, and I just want to go back to that. 756 people were surveyed, and 74% of them were students. And I don't think that really reflects our area, and I doubt that many of those kids actually came from the town. But it's my understanding that comprehensive plans are not required by law, but once they exist, all zoning has to comply with the plan. And I see that at every rezoning meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sarah Summerall. I live in Bristol. I just have a quick question. What happens?
What's your name again?
Sarah Summerall. What happens? What legal recourse is there, or what recourse is there for the citizens once the rezoning, if you decide to pass it, that they decide we're gonna actually build them to look like how you guys didn't like them to look, and we actually are gonna later on subsidize? Like what's the recourse? Because there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee to say, okay, we're going to rezone this. They've already said, they gave their word. They're going to look at, it's going to look different. They're not going to subsidize. But honestly, their word doesn't hold water if it's not legally on paper. So, I mean, that could change. We could pass it and they could say, well, we decided to do it different. And then all the concerns that we brought up are valid, but now we have no recourse. So, I mean, that's my genuine question. Do you have an answer for that?
Not right now.
You don't have an answer. So there's not going to be another meeting if they decide to change their mind and put forth this proposal, and then this proposal changes later on. We have no recourse. Is that what you're saying?
I believe that's true. I think the only thing we are allowed to consider is the use of the land based on the structures that are there.
Based on what they're telling us.
No, I think we can only truly consider the use of the land based on these structures because it's a detailed plan unit development. So they have to show exactly what buildings are going where, exactly where the drives are, exactly where the trees are.
I understand that part
But I think that is all we can consider, and it's used for housing. So by our housing rules, you're not allowed to put in a strip club here, right? I mean,
Well, I get that, but specifically subsidized housing. You specifically, Susie, made an argument that they gave their word it wouldn't be.
Correct.
What is the recourse if they change their mind?
I don't know that there is any. I think that is.
Okay,
I think there's
thank
no
you.
certainty, right?
There is no certainty, and so I think that's why most of the residents here are concerned. There's zero certainty other than someone said so.
Right.
So I think that's our main concern. Thank you.
Did I misspeak?
Good morning, JD Vandermeer, West Lawrence and Middlebury. I oppose this project. If you listen closely, when the developer spoke, there's a lot of words used as planning. To me, that was a lot like a businessman told me in Fort Worth one day, he says, JD, you're going to hear us saying we're fixing to do this and we're fixing to do that. That does not mean we're going to do it. And planning does not mean they're going to do it. And a lot of changes come down the road. And communities have personalities. And those personalities that Middlebury, Shipshewana, that area has, attracts a lot of tourists. We have RV manufacturers, but they have these big rallies that come to Goshen. It benefits the county. But where do they go when they have these rallies, these groups? They go to Middlebury, Shipshewana, places that are unique. And that's why we were there, moved here 30 some years ago. And it'd be like New York developer putting in a high rise in Elkhart or Goshen. It'd be a shock to your program. And this is not conducive to our community. Not that we don't need housing, but this is not the way to approach it. And also, we don't, as residents, need to be force fed. I was just with somebody recently. They had to put a tube in for feeding. If they decide to feed them another way, wouldn't be able to live. And this community is going to be affected that way too. If this continues, just like a cancer, it'll start to spread. And with that, I would ask that you reject the project.
My name is Anna Dorr. I live on County Road 16 in Middlebury. I'm here to say only two things because you've heard a lot and I've waited until now to say them. The first one is you guys have mentioned the comprehensive plan over and over again. And from where I've been sitting, I've heard the citizens saying, and the petitions gathered for people who aren't here, with not a single naysaying voice, this is not how they want to grow. They want single family homes. This will be very blunt, but if I say I want to grow my family, that doesn't mean I want to get raped to do it, to get pregnant. So we're saying we don't want this. We want something else, which brings me to my second point, which is something I teach my children. No is a complete sentence. We said no. We've said no over and over and over again. We bring up concerns, yes. We've had developers come say, well, we've listened and we've done this, this, and this, and this. But we didn't say, oh, we want less. We said no. And no is a complete sentence. Thank you.
Anybody else? We're not gonna hang on to this long. If you want to come speak, now's the time. Sir, you've already spoken, so.
I just have one thing. In LaGrange County, they have a buggy lane. In Elkhart County, we don't have a buggy lane. Is there a study about furthering that buggy lane?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, I'm Daniel Miller, and I'm from Dawn Estates, and we are high traffic through Middlebury right now, and putting another 112 units in there. Why, we know it's overpopulated right now, and we do have housing for sale in Middlebury, and I don't think we need to be crowded more. I have concern. We have grandkids. Safety comes first, so let's take that to consideration. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Shan Robinson. I live at County Road 15, Elkhart. I'm not in the fight with the Middlebury people. I'm opposed to it because they are. I would like to ask Brad, you said you've read both comprehensive plans for the town and for the UN. How do they compare? Are they word for word? Are they very similar?
No.
They're not? Okay. And also, nobody's mentioned the rent is $1,700 to $2,200 a month. I've owned a homeowner for 40 some years. That is outrageous. Who can afford that? How will it not be subsidized at some point? I just think it's a boondoggle, unintended consequences. The gentleman spoke about County Road 43. No comprehensive plan's been tested for what's going to happen. I know you can't cover everything. I'm just thinking you need to take a step back and rethink this for the people of Middlebury. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Yes, my name is Ed Imel, and I grew up most of my life in Indianapolis,
Your address, sir?
225 River Park Drive, Middlebury, Indiana.
And
I just wanted to say I moved up here about 5 years ago or so, and I got away from the hustle and bustle in Indianapolis, Indiana, and all the traffic and cars. And I just wanted to say that we live in the villas in Middlebury and love it. And I love to see the Amish buggies and I just love it here in Middlebury, and there's less traffic and everybody just seems to get along so good. And I just wanted to say that I love it the way it is.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is my husband. The other thing he was supposed to say is Indianapolis Star had an article about Middlebury being the 6th best small town, just like it is in the United States.
6th best small town. That's right. It was in Indianapolis Star.
Thank you.
My future.
Good morning. My name's Scott Bunger. I live at 508 Eugene Drive, Middlebury. I just heard about this meeting last night. Truly had I didn't know what was going on. I truly had no intention of coming up here and saying anything. But after hearing everything, I just want to say I've lived here 10 years. For the second time, I left for 7 years and came back. But I've got kids, grandkids, all live here in this area. It's a great town. I love it. I am worried about this. It seems like this is a rinse and repeat from last year. I live on Eugene Drive, and the same thing that was going on the other side of the water plant last year or year before. I can't remember now, but the same concerns, the same issues that was voted down at that point in time. And I feel like it was the right decision then, and I feel like voting this decision down is the right decision now. I just hope everybody keeps listening to these people. I hear some of the comments, and I hear this commission say that, well, this is all that we're voting on. So does the voice of the people even have any? Do the people even have a voice? I don't know. Please don't lend a deaf ear to this. Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer Alverson. I'm from Goshen, actually, but I just kind of felt I wanted to address the school issue that was mentioned a couple times. They talked about the city, I'm sorry, manager, I guess was her title, talked about the fact that the school count was down, the enrollments, and that people were wanting to live in Middlebury but couldn't find housing, and this was an attempt to try to solve that problem. I think the developers, somebody in there mentioned it too. It was mentioned at least twice, I know. And I just kind of want to put it, I don't feel like that in itself can be held as a reason that like there isn't enough housing for the school systems and the enrollment. There are a lot of other reasons going on in the schools that people are not enrolling or even pulling their kids from the schools. So I think that needs to be taken into account when considering that factor. Another thing in general, I mean, I'm feeling a little bit for the people who are doing the developing, you know, they've put a lot into this so far. What I'm seeing is very apparent is that there's a big problem in how the community is surveyed for a project like this. Because obviously this started a long time ago and there was apparently a survey done, already been told that like there was, 75% of the 700 and whatever people that they surveyed were students, which doesn't really represent the community. And that is probably something that I don't know if it's you guys' responsibilities or whose responsibility it is to organize official citizenry surveys that are valid and not just done by a third party that wants to get an official document for developers to use. So I just wanted to put that out for consideration for future. Thank you.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Okay, so the developer or from Whiteman, you want to come up and respond to any of this?
The concerns that we've heard here today are exactly the same concerns that we heard at 2 planning commission meetings. We've amended our plan multiple times to accomplish what we thought was a reliable plan to be a good neighbor. The questions that came up that this was off of a UN plan type thing, I've never heard of the UN plan in my life, and I've been in planning for 55 years doing residential developments and multifamily developments. Concerns with regards to traffic, and somebody passed away on a bicycle accident out there. Since that took place, the bike trail now goes around this project. I think that probably could have been avoided if the bike trail had been put in earlier. Question came up about townhouses or apartments being transitory, people coming and not being concerned residents. Small example of this is my daughter and her fiance have been looking for a house for over 5 years. She works currently at the Elkhart Library. And in the 5-year period, they've seen the interest rate go up, the house values go up, which is a big concern tax-wise, and the state's trying to work on that. But what used to be an entry-level home, 15 years ago at $150,000, an entry-level home right now is starting at $350,000. Unless you want your kids to be living in your basement, there's going to be affordable apartments that they can live in until they can save money for that, or until the time with which the interest rates come down to make it affordable. And as the developer reiterated, there is no incentive here at all. This is all private money. We're not looking for TIFs. We're not looking for town funding. And we're not looking for tax abatement. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you might have. Thank you.
Anything for the developer? Okay. Anything for Jason?
Thank you, Jason.
Okay, so we've heard your concerns about traffic density and others. So it's our role to weigh those concerns against the standard we're required to apply. And so we'll have our discussion now. What's on your mind, commissioners?
I always have a lot on my mind, as you gentlemen.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because, or I chuckled a little bit to myself. I don't play poker well, so I'm sure you saw that. I'm a person who would love my children to live with me forever. And unfortunately, because of that, I don't think they ever will after they're done. I struggle with the concerns against this development because they're not founded on the the supporting research and documentation, or consistent with things even 5 years ago that were complained about. Two sides, traffic, everybody, I don't care if you are in the middle of nowhere and have one bicycle on your road every hour, or you're in probably New York. Everybody loves to complain about traffic. It's almost as bad as complaining about the weather. It happens, right? Traffic is annoying. Traffic is a pain. It requires us to not go 80 miles an hour. It makes us hopefully pay attention, and if not, the poor sheriff gets called out to police folks. This road is designed for 3,000 users, or I'm sorry, designed for 8,000 users. It has 3,000. That's data that says that it has more than sufficient capacity. Capacity in studies look at a 20-year plan for growth, and when they hit the marks to then warrant expansion, they're expanded. But currently, that's not even a threat with these 112, 240 vehicles. They're not going to make a dent in that variance of 5,000 vehicles per day. The thing that I'm listening to here, there's some grabbing onto a plan, a 2030 plan, a UN Agenda 2030 plan. Early on, when I first got into office, it was just Agenda 21. That's all I kept hearing, Agenda 21. I actually read it then. I don't remember all of it now. I've slept since then. But the arguments against moving toward mandating certain uses and aesthetics were argued vehemently against, because Elkhart County is consistently a property rights community. I can develop my property. I can put my garden, make it as whatever I want. It's my property. By my right, my zoning right, I can do that. Brad can't tell me I can't grow squash. I mean, it's just how it is. We are a property rights, and this is a watered down example. To tell a developer, whether it's me as building a house, or a developer putting apartments, or an RV manufacturer that wants to come in, that their building has to be a certain color, is exactly how previous commissioners lost their jobs, because they tried to say, let's make this an aesthetic consistent with some growth, consistent with something that we currently like. And now I'm hearing you want us to mandate what things look like. And I think we have responded as a board with certain buffers, with certain setbacks in some projects, to give some aesthetic to what things look like. I also still stand by 100% that if you do not grow, you die. And you can look around this entire state of Indiana about investment that has not happened, and therefore grocery stores close because there's not enough volume to generate revenue to bring in groceries for that store. There's not enough dentists. There's not enough AMS and other services, because there's not enough people to support the working environment that goes along with those. If you want an ocean view, you pay for an ocean view. If you want nothing but agriculture around you, you have to buy it and hold it as agriculture. You can't sell it. But here in Elkhart County, it has been property rights consistently. And in those property rights, people want to sell their property to then have personal gain. It's what everybody wants and defines as the American dream. I don't see I see why you're complaining. I hear why you're complaining. Certainty would be great. It would be great, but nothing in life is certain. And we, as a board, can only consider so many things when we're looking at this property. I think my hand is tipped on how I will vote, but I wanted to share the discrepancy in some of the comments, because I guarantee you, if I went and told you that you had to have a certain basketball court on a certain driveway with a certain roof trim on your house, you would be livid. And I don't want to do that. I don't think these gentlemen do either, but they will speak for themselves. This is definitely a change to the environment. Across the street, I counted roughly 40 to 50 properties coming out on the same road. Each of those properties, in theory, are single-family homes. They will have probably a minimum of 2 vehicles, maybe more. The one across the street has parking for 240. I don't know how many are going to get used. And I would venture to say some people may park there for access to a trail. That's why I asked if they were assigned parking. It is definitely an anomaly to hear the comments and conversation about what you want versus what you're willing to pay for, versus the minute we say you have to do something, you get aggravated. And I don't blame you. I don't like to be told what to do either. But it does not make this job any easier. And I'm not looking for ease, but consistency in some of our votes. I will still vote for property rights on this property.
So I've been to Middlebury 3 times now. I've met with some young couples from Middlebury in their 20s. Because we keep hearing that young people can't afford to buy their first home. The average age of a new home buyer is 40. So I asked them the hard questions, and they gave me the brutal truth. In Middlebury, they said that they'd go to buy a house, one couple, they go to buy a house, and they were outbid by private equity firms, and they end up turning these houses into Airbnbs because it's a tourist attraction. Well, being a county board, we don't have any authority over that. And the other thing that they were concerned about was that, apartments are all good, but apartments are more expensive rent wise than it is a house payment. Yeah, you don't have the cost of maintaining the house, mowing the yards, replacing water heaters, working on your appliances or whatever. So I think when we start talking about affordable housing, I don't think we're looking at a picture broad enough. And I personally don't think high density housing in local areas is the answer to this question. That brings a lot of people in. But I don't believe for 1 minute that any high density housing project that starts out being privately owned isn't going to turn into a private equity debacle 5-10 years from now. So I would like to see a better planning. I'd like to see better conversations amongst the community other than a select few. That's all I got to say.
Well, this is some of the most difficult decisions that this commission has to make. And, when you're representing the people, that's always a difficult thing because you want to hear them and you want to take in consideration their thoughts and desires. You got a developer that owns this private property that has 112 units that has scaled back at the request, really, of the people that were complaining. And then, but you have this type of thing that you present us with petitions that are based on false pretenses that this gulag type mentality is going to be the one that's going to be built. I think it's kind of misleading, and then so anybody who signs those, they're on a false proposition. I am concerned about the Middlebury planning the support development of young family focused housing subsidy program, and that's not real clear how that is addressed. I know the developer says he's not going to subsidize, but I guess there is a point that, you know, that could change. That is concerning. Traffic, I really don't think that's that big of an issue because, I mean, Goshen apartment, we've had several Goshen developments come in and everybody's fussing about traffic, but once the apartments are built, you know, not all these people are leaving at once. And traffic is really minimal on that. And you talk about the market, actually that the 1,700 to whatever, 2,200, that's actually the market right now. And that's just the way it is. And so I've heard the things about the plans, and you know, some of the people that spoke today weren't even in Middlebury, and so I really don't think they have a vested interest in it. So I don't know. I think that's a concern. The town council of Middlebury would like to see this. We've heard testimony that they have capacity with sewer and water. So, yeah, there's lots of conflict, and we try to base ours on the standards that the plans develop and are recommended. So with that, anybody else have any comments?
So you pointed out the 40-year-old first-time home buyer comment that was thrown at us, right? Somebody said that there's a lot of people that don't want the responsibility of a house, and I wonder if we can look into that a little bit more for our other discussions. But
Well, the thing when I had my discussions with the younger people, I met them at the NIPSCO meeting, and by the way, I met at the Creamery. That is a nice place. I ended up buying supper that night and taking it home, but the thing is, a lot of people, a lot of children, mine included, they grew up here in Elkhart County, and they got educated and they moved away because they didn't want to work in trailer factories. They didn't want an RV job. I think there's a lot to this home ownership. I think there's a lot to financing a home. I think it's a lot, but you also have to have the jobs, the high tech jobs, the high advanced manufacturing jobs to support. And I think Elkhart County's lacking in that, to be honest with you. So that has a lot to do with home ownership too. So you have to have a job to support it. So other than that, I'm done.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, Kelly, I'd like a roll call vote.
we need a motion first.
Oh, that's right.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request.
I'll second it just to get to a vote. Kelly, roll call vote.
Commissioner Barnes?
No.
Commissioner Wire?
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers?
Yes. It passes 2-1. Next is request approval of Emerald Chase land development. Yeah. If you would, please move quickly out of the room so we can commence with the meeting. You want to take a break? This may not be a good time.
So we think we're gonna have a lot of people. You guys don't have to stay unless you have something else. Oh. Okay. Can you kindly move conversations outside so we can continue, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. Please continue to exit. Thank you.
Order. Thank you. Okay, next is request approval, Emerald Chase Land Development LLC, represented by Avid Marsh Consultants for secondary approval of a 35 lot minor subdivision known as Lux Granger, Phase 1, south side of County Road 1, west of County Road 5 in Cleveland Township.
Morning, Danielle Richards, Elkhart County Planning Department. Yes, what we have before you is acceptance of the dedication of right-of-way. It is a 62 lot major, but Phase 1 is just for 35 lots to the north part of the development. And Phase 2 will come when they're ready to move on. But yes, this is just for dedication of the new roads.
We need a public hearing. We need a public hearing.
Yeah. Okay. So just a quick question. Is this going to be like a subdivision?
Yes, it's a major subdivision. Yeah, it eventually will have 62 lots total.
And has that been approved yet?
Yes, that was approved.
So we're just approving the right of way.
Correct.
It leads into that. And who's the landowner?
Emerald Chase Land Development.
So they own it, the ones that are developing it.
I would assume, but I don't. Yeah, Avid Marsh could probably answer that better.
Okay. Come on up, Avid Marsh.
Good morning, Crystal Welsh, Avid Marsh, 303 River Race Drive here in Goshen. And yes, Emerald Chase is a local development company owned by 2 Elkhart County residents. And they are going to be developing it to create lots for single family homes.
Any questions for Avid Marsh? Is the developer here?
Yes, Conway Hirschberger is here.
Do they want to speak or?
Do you have questions? If you have questions, he's happy to answer.
No. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Do I have any discussion among commissioners? Oh, we need a public hearing. Sorry. Let's open up for a public hearing. Anybody here to speak against this right-of-way acquisition? Or in favor?
Seeing no motion, make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Next is request approval of Town of Bristol, represented by JPR, for amendment to the text of the Elkhart County Development Orders to add the Town of Bristol overlay located within the limits of the Town of Bristol.
Good morning, Commissioners. May I help, Plan Director? This request for the Town of Bristol to have their overlay is something that was established in the development ordinance back in 2024, when you all approved the development ordinance for the county. Each of our 4 towns within the county have the opportunity to have a town overlay. The Town of Bristol was the first to take advantage of that. The standards that they have in place are very in line with what you would expect to see for a town in terms of just different considerations for buffering density within and setbacks within a town for the town character.
I'm assuming staff has reviewed and agrees with the overlays as acceptable.
That's correct. And Plan Commission has also unanimously approved the town overlay.
I got a couple questions. So this town overlay, can you explain what that means to SOAR?
Absolutely. So the county has standards within our development ordinance for setbacks, for buffering, for zoning. The towns are each given the opportunity to have more restrictive standards than what the county has because of the concentration of population and the character of each of those towns to maintain town character, and that is what Bristol is doing in this case.
So I see their signs are in here. So they're gonna change it to make it more stricter than what the county is?
They have more restrictive sign standards, yes, than what the county currently has in their development ordinance.
You know about
What,
billboards?
what about the signs that are grandfathered in?
It's an excellent point, Bob. Thank you for bringing that up. Anything within the town that is an existing structure, whether it be a building or a sign, is grandfathered, or what we call in the development ordinance and technical terminology, legal nonconforming. It's legally established, therefore it's under the new ordinance, it would be nonconforming, has the right to continue unless there was a substantial change to the structure.
Okay, so there's a set of billboards on Casco Drive, on the corner of Casco Drive and State Road 15 or Vistula Street, however you want to put it.
Yep.
What's gonna happen to those?
Those
Under this ordinance, under this change?
in your terminology, they're grandfathered in, or technically they are legal nonconforming. Therefore, they have the right to stay there and to be completed as permitting started and was approved under the current development ordinance.
So they're not gonna be required to remove those structures?
They are not required to remove those structures.
The Bristol cannot require them to remove those structures.
According
Those
to
ordinance.
according to the county's legal team, meaning the department's legal team, and then the broader county legal team, they are not required to remove those structures. That does not mean that under civil court case, there could be another determination made, but from a public standpoint, that is what we have told those
So
property
it's my
owners.
understanding that Bristol's in a lawsuit with certain people over the billboard issues.
There's no lawsuit, not that I know of.
Not that I'm aware of either at this time. I'm just saying if it went privately, I am not an attorney, so therefore I cannot establish the outcome or judge.
They can't get the signs put up because of threat of Bristol coming in and penalizing them. So there goes your property rights.
Any other questions in regard to the Bristol overlay?
Have the town council, did they approve this?
Town council did approve this town overlay last week, yes. They formally approved it and adopted it.
Do we need a public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay, let's open up for a public hearing for this special purpose and overlay district for Bristol Development Overlay. Anybody wish to speak?
I didn't see your logo, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Angela Smith from Jones Petrie Rafinsky's office is located at 325 South Lafayette in South Bend. I've been with the company almost a year now. This was my first kickoff project. I come from a long planning history of helping write ordinances, and so that was one of my first tasks with the company, and was excited to do this with the town of Bristol. As May pointed out, this is to help kind of align the standards with the town. For instance, in the downtown right now, there's nothing that would allow or even require someone to build buildings as they historically existed. And one of the things the town wanted to preserve was part of that character of, like, the Opera House, for instance, instead of having a large parking lot with the building set really far back from the downtown corridor. The other main criteria that they asked us to look at was dark sky lighting. They wanted stricter lighting requirements because that's one of the biggest complaints from Bristol residents. Legalizing their sign ordinances. There was a discrepancy. The town had a sign ordinance. The county had not processed it through there. So this would legalize what the town has already had in place for many years. It would not change anything that was legally established or legal nonconforming. So, like the signs in any development within Bristol, anything they have could continue to exist. And then the third thing they wanted to look at was enhancing the corridor along State Road 15 for their industrial uses specifically. We had several public meetings, including a targeted meeting with businesses along the corridor, in which we discussed the regulations, and everybody was understanding. In fact, Thor Development, who's one of the biggest developers along that corridor right now, just expanded, has everything in line with what they're looking at here. The districts established kind of help distinguish. You have the downtown core district, a transitional corridor, and then the South Division or State Road 15 corridor, and then some general things that apply to the whole town, such as the signs and lighting. As May mentioned, we had a unanimous favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission, and the town board on last Tuesday also passed it unanimously. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about the standards themselves or about the process.
So on page 5 of the ordinance, do you have that in front of you?
I do.
It says, in the Bristol downtown corridor, 32 square feet, which is what, a 4x8?
Correct.
And then Bristol transitional corridor, Bristol South Division corridor, you have 64 square feet. So can you explain all those parameters there?
Sure. So what we looked at is we looked at the existing signage that was along the corridor and what was reflected there. So we looked at in that transitional corridor, for instance, there's the library sign was one of the things we looked at, and we made sure that what we were proposing was what's consistent with the historical character of the signs and what's there. There are a couple that have recently been approved as pole signs. This would not allow for new ones in specific areas like the downtown specifically. But even like the Thor sign, for instance, meets these standards that we've established.
But again, if, let's say the library has a sign that exceeds that standard, they're not going to have to take it down.
Correct. This is the way the zoning ordinances work is they're not retroactive. So you can't suddenly come in and force somebody to do something. Now, if the library, which I don't think they're above the code anyway, but if they wanted to put in something like they wanted to put in a 100 square foot sign on that property, they would have to apply for a variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals because these standards are more restrictive than that.
Very good. Any other questions for? Okay, so we're in the public hearing phase. So anybody else speak in favor or against?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Comments from the commissioners?
Motion to approve the request.
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call vote. Kelly.
Commissioner Barnes?
No.
Commissioner Larry?
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers?
Yes. Motion passes 2-1. Next is additional appropriation request from County Road 16, County Road 17 Improvement TIF Fund in the amount of $450,000 for funds to cover a portion of paving package costs associated with roadways affecting the TIF area.
Commissioners Mayhope, Plan Director, Plan Department and Highway Department meet on a monthly basis to come up with budgetary amounts from Highway, what makes sense from a TIF impact perspective. Once those projects become more realized by Highway, we present numbers to council. Those that $640,000 was approved by council on Thursday. We're asking for county commissioners to approve that amount from the TIF to be used towards paving programs on behalf of Highway.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Then letter E, additional appropriation request from Northwest Gateway TIF Fund in the amount of $650,000 for funds to cover a portion of paving package costs associated with the roadways affecting the TIF area.
So I reversed the numbers, but the same request here. The first was for 450. This one is for the 650,000 for this area. Within that area, those are the road paving packages that have been identified that impact on that TIF. So that's the amount before you.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any board items? Seeing none. Any other additional privilege of the floor? Seeing none, but we do have an attorney.
Steve Olson, County Attorney. Just point of clarification for the board. In the beginning of this meeting, There was permission granted for the Goshen Courthouse. I know it was noted specifically that it would be in compliance with the ordinance. I'm just making sure the board is aware as there's a restriction section where we would add that. And because it wasn't publicly stated at the time of the vote, there is an element of the timing that we may need to make sure it is in consistency with the ordinance, that being the 9 p.m. cutoff time, which is fine with their 5 to 9, just includes close up. So just
Yeah.
making that clarification for the board's awareness and the public's awareness.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.